We both had hermit lines, so we held each other closer and stopped talking to those who disagreed with him or made us feel judged. There were many years I did not call or go home for Christmas. Our leaning on each other and my embracing his family gave him more control over my social situation, and I sought his counsel for everything. My low self-esteem and his feeding the lies that I was dumb and ignorant made me lean on his advice even more. I just couldn't handle the emotional turbulence of his pushing me away and pulling me close. But I was strong, and I was a fighter. And I fought for 7 years for stability in our relationship. The terrifying idea of what was out there in the dark abyss of the future prohibited me from believing that there was someone else better for me. And it put me in a desperate situation that lasted for 7 years. I made 7 attempts to move out and leave, and all 7 times I missed him and felt lost without his influence and presence in my life. I would think that it was so dumb of me to leave and he would suck me back in to forgive him, and that if I just changed, this one little thing, this one little problem would go away. This is the low vibration of taking responsibility and absorbing the manipulative guilt put onto you by others. I took all of our problems upon myself, and he fed me that lie. It took me until the 7th year and 8th attempt to move out. The only way I knew I would stay away was if I signed a lease and packed all of my things and moved out and never looked back. Page 78. Welcome to Impasse Beyond Trauma, where you find peace and healing from narcissistic abuse, spiritually and through human design. I'm Tiffany Wynn, aka Raven Scott, survivor, educator, and author. This is episode 1, Healing is Remembering. What trauma bonding steals and how to take it back.
This podcast is for educational purposes only and does not replace professional therapy.
Now, anxiety comes in many forms and shapes and colors. I'm just saying that whenever I felt very attached, very anxious, when I didn't have access or I tried to pull away, that was kind of, in hindsight, the sign that I was bonded to this person in a very unhealthy attachment, and also through trauma. We had our own experience together intimately, and there was a lot of love, but there was a lot of anxious attachment, and then there was also a lot of abuse. So I was constantly trying to be the best girl, be the good girl, be the perfect, beautiful, blonde Orange County woman for this person. He was projecting what he wanted onto me. Whereas when I met him, I was a Birkenstocks wearing girl. I was very natural. I love, and I still love, the forest and the outdoors and camping. And so I changed myself in order to please him, in order to fit into his expectations. Number one, because I thought no one else would love me. So I felt like I needed a change in order to receive that love back. And he convinced me that no one else would love me and that he had my best interests at heart. He was always trying to help me be tougher, grow up. We met in high school, so that narrative worked for me. And then there was just a lot of expectations that he did not speak about. And then it became almost obsessions in the end that he expected me to uphold, especially in the bedroom. And that was really difficult because then it would be like this intense connection and then this intense disappointment. So it was almost like yanking the Band-Aid back off, right? You stick a Band-Aid on and you yank it off. It's really painful, and it caused a lot of pain. And when leaving him thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to put up with this. This is not what I deserve. I deserve something better. My negative thoughts would start ruminating. Once I was gone, the silence was very uncomfortable. I was very anxious, and so I I reached out. And so I was deeply trauma bonded. Now, you can also be bonded through trauma in different ways. That was just mine. It was almost repetitive and chronic and groomed, right? That's how abuse happens, is the grooming. Others, it may be like you experience an acute traumatic situation together and you have that shared memory and experience and you're bonded through that. And then that kind of forms that bond and connection that can last through the whole relationship, but it can also be used as a leverage in the relationship. But if it's abused, and it's really a difficult situation to be in, because I said all I felt the signs that I was trauma bonded was the anxiety, that anxious attachment. So today we're going to be addressing that feeling of feeling worthless, of not having any self-esteem yourself, of feeling like you aren't anything without them. That's kind of like the missing limb syndrome, but with it being a partner. We're going to focus on that and how that feeling can be mistaken for needing that toxic person. And the toxic person feeds you those lies in order for you to buy into the fact that you need them. Because if you don't need them and you believe in yourself and you stand up in your power and you say, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, I'm moving out, I'm moving on, I'm breaking up with you, all the things that you know you should say, but they feel really hard. They feel even harder for the narcissist because they need you to fulfill their insecurities. So they're projecting all their insecurities on you. They also need you to be that, shelf, that coat hanger of hanging all the insecurities, because they themselves are really insecure as well. They just handle it very toxic way. So we're going to be focusing on that and how you can shift from feeling worthless to knowing your worth and stepping into your power. So the definition of a trauma bond is, I'm going to just directly cite it from northernhealthcare.org/UK. A trauma bond is a connection between an abusive person and the individual they abuse. It is reflective of an attachment created by repeating physical or emotional trauma with positive reinforcement. So who is affected by trauma bonding? So although trauma bonding can affect anyone can succumb to the cunning wits of the fox, the narcissist, or an abuser. A person who has suffered from domestic abuse is more vulnerable and prone because you have been raised to receive the negative feedback. A person who has been subjected to incest. A person who has been kidnapped, which makes sense because there's a lot of grooming. A person who has been sexually abused. A person who has been in a cult. An elderly person who has been abused due to their age, right? It's always the vulnerable. And a person who has been human trafficked. So I had talked about anxious feeling. There's other signs of trauma bonding that you can look out for. If you are thinking, oh, I've got some little pings going on up in my head. There are two key signs to look out for when considering whether you are in a trauma bond relationship. The first is whether the relationship is cyclical. You may notice that the person treats you nicely sometimes and therefore makes it difficult to leave. The second is that a power imbalance is present. This is when you may feel that the person controls you or makes it difficult to break free. So below are also some characteristics of trauma bond relationships. For instance, you may feel unhappy and not like your partner anymore, but you still cannot end things. You may feel physically and emotionally distressed when trying to leave. They might promise to change, but make no effort actually to do so upon threats of you leaving. You may fixate on the good in the relationship rather than the bad, which often outweighs the positives. You likely make excuses for them and defend their behavior when others express worry. You continue to trust them and think that you can change them. Ding, 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 that was me. You protect them and keep their abusive behavior a secret from loved ones. That is another huge red flag. Can trauma bonding be broken? Yes, it can. And I will personally attest to this. You really need to focus in on your mental health, your emotional health, and keeping almost like that data journal, which I didn't do, but it took me 7 times to leave. I think that if I had taken some data, I probably would have left a lot sooner. Data actually really helps. Writing a journal in your daily, if you have like a daily calendar or just a journal, and date it, just take a note like when things are bad, when things are good. And at the beginning, don't judge it. Don't feel existential. Just kind of be neutral about your data and take those steps to then be able to go back and count or calculate. Okay, I know I'm feeling like I'm really focusing on the positive right now. I'm making excuses for them and their behavior, and I'm starting to blame myself. Let's go back into my journal and just count like how many times did they say they were going to change, but they didn't? How many times did I cry because they said something mean and then apologized and said that they were just doing it for my own good? Or, which is a fake apology, because then again, the next day they'll do it again and they will criticize you or expect something of you and then blame you for something that went wrong when it really truly was just an unmet expectation of theirs, or they actually did the wrong thing and they start to spin it back and turn it on to you. Narcissists do not take accountability. They will always make justifications. They will always say things that are defending themselves or deflecting onto you. And it does make for your mind to go a bit crazy. So tracking all that down in a journal can be extremely powerful and helpful for you to stay sane. I think the next step is to start speaking to a professional about what's happening, because as the list showed, which I 100% can personally attest to, I always focus on the positive. I hid all of the negative. I especially hid the abuse, also because it was related to sexual connotations. And so it was even more embarrassing and awkward to talk about with my parents or my mom. I was able to kind of talk about it with his, but it was very much like she just said, well, that's not normal. And I was like, okay, but what do I do with that information? Like, that wasn't very helpful. So speaking to a professional can also help, because we do hide these things from our friends, our family, our loved ones. And even if we don't hide it from our friends, it's really hard for them to help us. And sometimes when they try and help us, their solution might push us farther away, or we might push them away because their solution is, well, dump the guy, right? Or dump the girl. But that's really hard when you're trauma bonded, because that's like saying cut off your arm. Like, you're just not going to do it. It's just not going to be an easy step. Everyone on the outside thinks, well, why didn't they say something? Or why didn't they just leave? And if you're listening, it is not that easy to just leave. It is not that easy to just get up and remove yourself, because you are trauma bonded, and it steals that confidence from you. It steals the joy. It steals your ability to just have open conversations with people, because you're hiding and you're masking and you're concealing this abuse. So, number one is keep that data in the journal. Number two is connect with a professional, a therapist, a mental health professional. Trauma informed would be a bonus, even on top of that, because they can really talk to you and speak to you on how you're feeling and are you ready, or like just ease you into the process. Like, my therapist said, have you ever heard of the term codependent? Which I had not, but I was 100,000% codependent on my ex, which is also part of that trauma bond process of just coexisting codependent. It's very unhealthy, that anxious attachment. And that just kind of lit a little light bulb on the trail of my confidence to take away myself from that trauma bond. Page 74. Codependency is the state of being mutually reliant, for example, a relationship between two individuals who are emotionally dependent on one another. Number two is a dysfunctional relationship pattern in which an individual is psychologically dependent on or controlled by A person who has pathological addiction, codependent. This is by the American Psychological Association. If you are experiencing fear, anxiety, and confusion in your relationship constantly, then I highly recommend speaking to a professional. I've been there, and when I left the narcissist, I found talk therapy to be extremely beneficial, and this is why I chose BetterHelp as a sponsor. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp, who offers licensed therapists who are trained to allow you to talk to your therapist in the privacy of your own home in an online environment at your convenience. Finding a therapist is easy. Just fill out the questionnaire to help assess your specific needs. Then you get matched with a therapist in 48 hours. Everything you share is completely confidential in therapy. Join the 3 million plus people who have taken the charge of their mental health and found freedom from the narcissist with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/empath. That's /EMPATH. The link is in the show notes. So that's another way to detach yourself, to regain your freedom back, and to break the trauma bond. The third one, and this is a big one that's been talked about a lot in the narcissist education social media posts from many years ago, is break the contact. Go no contact. My biggest mistake when I felt anxious and I had left the relationship, I packed a bag, I moved out to one of my family members' house. I was all ready to camp out for weeks on end. And I was going to hold, true to my end of the bargain. My ultimatum was, if you don't change, I'm going to leave. So I would hold up to that bargain. I would leave. And then I would start to ruminate. I would start to get anxious. I would start to feel an intense amount of longing and missing of my ex. And then I would break this rule. I would contact him thinking that it would just be a normal makeup, right? A normal conversation about being able to work through our problems. I was trying to resolve the conflict from a distance via text. So I would contact him and I would say, I really miss you. I'm so sorry. Like, what went wrong, right? Because also, when you leave and you're in that argument, you cannot make heads or tails out of the conflict. There's really no way to put language to what is wrong, because what is wrong is not you. It is not something that can be resolved on both sides of the party. It is abuse. And the other person needs to take accountability for their actions and stop using you as that physical abuse component to their life, or mental abuse, or verbal abuse, or sexual abuse. They are not treating you with respect. They are not treating you how they would want to be treated. Therefore, it is abuse. So I would reach out. So the rule really is no contact. And to form a habit is 28 days. So maybe start. 28 days is very long. It's very scary. I understand. Start with 28 minutes. Then go with 28 hours. Then go with 3 days. Just literally take it day by day. Block the phone number. Maybe you might even need to delete the phone number. I know it sounds really scary. Like, no way. That's cutting off my arm. But which I made the mistake, I did not delete the phone number for years, even after I broke up. And I think I kept it just in case I needed to tell who it was. And then after a barrage of text message attacks with that person's name on it, contact, I realized having them as a contact in my phone didn't matter. It was going to come through and receive on my end unless I blocked this phone number. So if it has a number or a name, it does not matter if you have it saved or not. They will attack you and barrage you with text messages. So the only way to prevent that is to block the number, which is a really simple way to do in your technology in your phone. So simple. So number one, do not contact, and number two, do not reply if they contact. And that is the hardest part, because narcissists are like a little flame or a big flame. They are a ball of anger and resentment and energy. And that flame can only live if you continue to give it oxygen, give it attention. So you need to starve that energy of oxygen by not reacting, not contacting, not replying. Let them send the 2,000 text messages. I would obviously advise to block so all those text messages stop spamming your phone and you can not have to read them because it's so hard to resist reading them. Then they won't even come through. You don't have to read the toxic poison that is completely 1,000% false and not true. And then you can heal and move on in peace without them bothering you, without them contacting you. So that's a huge, huge part is no contact. And then the last element really is to not blame yourself through the whole healing process. You can't even say, I regret it, I made a mistake. Because I still kind of feel like, yeah, I regret that. And yes, I do have regrets. But even so, I learned a lot and I just had to go through my own process in my 20s during that time of exploration that I had to. You know, we all have our different stages of when we're ready to wake up, when we're ready to be brave, when we finally realize, and that's a win because you could go your whole life with this person, but you are stopping this cycle now. Focus on the present. Don't blame yourself. Don't think about regrets or mistakes. It is part of your soul's journey in waking up. Your soul probably planned this interaction and said, hey, I have an idea that's going to help me wake up when I'm in this body. We're going to put this little toxic thing together and let's see how I do with this test. And there is no pass or fail. It just is experience. It's a learning lesson. It's a wake up call. And take this opportunity now, instead of blaming yourself, to empower yourself that you have woken up, you know better now, and you're going to work on breaking those patterns and cycles moving forward. And you do that by focusing in on you. Who are you? What are your passions? What lights you up? What is your talent? Because the narcissist has completely taken all of that away from you. The trauma bond to the narcissist is what steals your light. It steals your talents. It steals your gifts that your incarnation came here to bring. The narcissist trauma bond stole your peace. It stole your sanity. It stole everything. So it's really important to focus in on just observing yourself. Who am I? What do I like? Do I love to garden? Do I love greenery? Do I love trees? Do I love needlework? Do I love playing the piano? Like, how about work? Do I love technology? Do I love to go into the city for work? Do I love to be in the suburbs? Do I love to be in nature? All of these things, just discover yourself. Discover yourself, and that will start you on the healing journey to put the trauma bond and the toxic narcissist behind you and focus in on yourself in the present to help heal and discover yourself. Because the trauma bond has stolen you, your authentic you. And so now you get to regain you back, which is the whole point of this podcast. The whole point of me sitting here and talking to you is to help you find yourself. And we'll do that through exploring with mental mindset exercises, through meditations, and we'll do that on this podcast, even through human design, which we'll talk about in the next series of the podcast. So let's just recap our key takeaways to this episode. I have my notes here. I just want you to know and trust that you are leaving harm behind. I know it feels like it's an arm, but it's actually harm with an H. It is harm that you're leaving behind, not your arm, not your body, not your soul. You know, a lot of people talk about twin flames, like, oh, my half of my soul is taken out of me. No, that's just the trauma bond. It is that feeling, the anxiety, And maybe that excess of dopamine that they would love bomb you with has also been removed. So your brain is also feeling the effects of it too. Just know that you're creating room to find you. You're creating room to explore who you are and for your true self and soul to shine through and to fulfill your purpose in this world. Okay? Don't forget that. Please don't forget that. The narcissist will try and try and try until you block their number, and then they can't try anymore to steal your light. And number 2 in our takeaways is healing is brave. You are brave for healing, for going no contact, for moving on, moving out, for saying no more, for blocking their number. You are brave for doing that. And I just want you to affirm yourself over and over today and for the weeks to come. Wake up and say, I am brave. I got this. I'm a badass. And they got nothing on me. And also, you are worthy of your peace and respect. Trauma bonding is something that takes away your peace, and you are worthy of your peace, and you can regain that peace back. And then I wanted to share with you the tools that are in the end of this chapter 5 regarding trauma bonding, love bombing, and codependency. You can get this practice for free in my course on my website, ravenspathpress.com. The treasures that I lost were my personal musical practice. I lost my friendships. I lost my family, my sobriety, and the ability to hold healthy relationships. The main human design element at play here was my open solar plexus and my open will center also. You can learn more about that in chapter 12 in my book. So the gift that I'm providing to you from the emotional toolbox is the empath protection meditation and the inner authority mantra. These tools you can start with right away to start loving yourself and putting up boundaries. And you can get all of those tools and resources in my book, Empath and the Narcissist: How to Overcome Narcissistic Abuse, Recover from PTSD, Codependency, and Gaslighting. It is on Amazon, Audible, Kindle, and paper. I am here for you to cheer you on. So follow me on Instagram and YouTube, subscribe, and comment below if there's something you're struggling with. If you just want to say, I'm here and I'm doing it, I just want to affirm you and say, you are brave, you are worthy of your light and peace, and you got this. All right, signing off for today, and we'll see you in the next episode.